Your Excellencies, I know say una be busy people, so let me go straight to the point. I take God beg una, shey na so una come trust INEC reach, Your Excellencies. Do you have confidence in the integrity and capacity of INEC to do the right thing and conduct free and fair elections in Nigeria? The answer is obvious, and that is why, of course, there is a need to form a coalition. But Your Excellencies, for how long will Nigeria continue to run on coalitions and mergers? You know, as lawmakers and politicians, that the strength of every democracy is not in coalitions. It is in the strength of your institutions, especially the electoral process. And that free, fair, and credible elections are the foundations of every democracy. So, Your Excellencies, why is there no spotlight being put on INEC and your voice is not being heard to call for the reformation of the electoral process for us to fix INEC in Nigeria? Because today you can even see from the by-elections which happened recently that INEC is the ancient of days that will not change. And today elections in Nigeria have been left for the highest rigor. Anybody who fit rig pass, now him go win the office. And we can see the clear desperation on the part of the ruling party. So will everybody continue to cow because we believe or think that INEC will not do the right thing and it cannot be reformed? Your Excellency, something must be done. Former Senate President David Mark, you are the longest serving Senate President in the history of Nigeria, and you understand the nuances and the need for constitutional review and for legal framework to be given to every institution, especially the electoral institution, to plug the loopholes and protect the votes of Nigerians from judicial technicalities while we mobilize to protect our votes on election day. That is the need and why there is this call. Because every one of you in the opposition have either been victims or beneficiaries of this electoral process, and you know how it they go. In 2015, it was Honorable Gosde Orubebe who was screaming at the ICC on what he saw as criminality in the electoral process. In 2023, it was Senator Dino Melaye who disagreed with the outcome. In fact, even the former governor of Rivers State during his 60th birthday, Honorable Amechi, he said INEC has become so bad that it will not even register a new political party. So an agency that has become so criminalized to not even do its own basic responsibility, why is nobody putting a spotlight on it, allowing it to continue to run riots, and it is uhuru, so the ruling party is having a field day? There must be talks about INEC. Something has to be done before the elections of 2027. Senator Aminu Waziri Tambawal is a serving senator in the red chambers. Why is it that no opposition lawmaker has been able to put a bill on the floor that demands mandatory electronic transmission of results, that is going to spell out clear consequences for INEC if they decide to set rules in their guidelines and go against their own guidelines? We must do something about elections before 2027, Your Excellencies. Remember that before this time, there was a coalition in 2014 that brought in the 2015 government. And a lot of the key players in these current coalitions were also key players in the 2014 coalition. And when the APC saw the need for free and fair election, it was the APC who read the Riot Act to the Jonathan government. They say if the 2015 elections are rigged, that APC will form a parallel government. Why is the current opposition not putting the same pressure and holding the ruling party to equal standard?
But on the question of money and voters, it's not just about poverty. I think we still need to do a lot more in terms of voter education and voter mobilization, to let our people realize that when they sell their votes, they mortgage their own future. Because the people who have bought the votes, when they get there, the first thing they will try to do is to recoup their investment, as we have seen. When will our voters begin to learn that their vote is about their future, not about their stomach?
As regards elections, were these by-elections or by-elections?
So BY, BUY.
BUY. Because all I saw during this by-election was vote for sale. Who is the highest bidder? The highest bidder in some cases with coercive force of states now celebrate that they are triumphant. So people that bought elections in the by-elections celebrate that they won elections that they bought. I weep for Nigeria. These by-elections also, people that claim that they have political power, that they've come together, now see that politics is local and they are crying.
16 constituencies in 12 states. The same old problem, reinforcing the fact that lessons have not been learned, that the political class has not changed its color, and our institutions continue to fail. How did the institution fail? Beavers in Edo State. Beavers did not work in Edo State. Still, despite the fact that this was just a small-scale election, election materials arrived late in certain places. 2, you had vote buying. In Ikperu, Remo, a certain Mitsubishi van was intercepted containing about 2.5 million naira, in cash that some persons who said they collected the money from a man called Political Solution were going to give to the electorate at the polling booths. Now, what is the political solution? Cash, vote buying. In Ogun, Kanu, and one other state, a total of 288 thugs were arrested. Those thugs, what will be their main trade? It will be violence. In 2 constituencies in Kano state, the PDP and other political parties have requested for the cancellation of the elections in those constituencies by INEC. In other words, just to speak broadly, in Enugu State, in one polling booth, a serving minister of state was booed by the electorate who were wondering what he was doing at the polling booth, trying to influence the process. So that's that about, general trends and behavior. And that is why I think that these by-elections will have to remind us that INEC still has to do a lot more, and the imperative of electoral reform is non-negotiable. We need to take a second look at it, and we have to take it more seriously. And that reform must not come 2-3 weeks to the election. It must come. We could have had the opportunity to test some of those reforms. This beavers never works. It didn't work in 2019. It failed us in 2023. Is it going to fail us again in 2027? With all the protestations by the electoral umpire that they have digitalized and modernized their operations. We do not see that evidence. This by-election over the weekend is a poor comment on the growth of the electoral process in Nigeria. However, the presidency, speaking through Mr. Bayo Ononuga, says it was violence-free. Beavers not working, vote buying, attempts by thugs, and all of the efforts by politicians to manipulate the process. That in itself is a form of violence. Students of violence, of the theory of violence, will know that it's not only when you carry hammer and machete that you are engaged in violence. There are levels of violence. I don't want to theorize on that this morning because it's not relevant to the immediate discussion. As for DS.
So it's a tale of 2 cities. But it's a sad tale for Nigeria. Because, like Tiponel will famously say, politics is local. But because politics is local does not mean people should be buying elections. Look at the person that was caught from a certain political party with over 29 million. Look at officials that were caught with over 2 million. So while we are celebrating, we should also look at how of a joke the democracy has been. So maybe in 2027, maybe people should go and just put money. Because you see, Nigerian politics has now become a case that it is the best money that wins. Money, efforts, thugs, buying everybody. Once you can do that, you get your way. Buy everybody possible. There's nobody that money doesn't buy in this country in the grand scheme of elections. For the winners, what did you win? You bought it with money. Was it truly the reflective hope and aspiration people did have in you? Or it was because of your money? Why not we build a society that it is based on your works? People will vote for it. I know people that days before the election, they did road. The road that they didn't do all this while. If you see the way they complete the road, even if the road is Amolumala road, they completed it.
Maybe we should have elections more often.
Oh my goodness. They completed road in a speed to be able to beg. So, this is a signpost. But kudos to the APC. They got 12 out of the seats. Okpebolo got a trouncing win over other parties. The senatorial candidate, the pair that was vying for his own seat, they did well. He still maintained his stability there because that was a point to prove for him. Seyi Makinde held his own angle. In fact, some people are now using that to say they tip Seyi Makinde that maybe he's the new kid. No, LA politics is local. he also wanted to use to prove a point. APC said 12 swept 12. APGA, Soludo too held his own turf with APGA. They consolidated. ADC, we didn't see anything from ADC. So it's quick now. We have to start asking questions from the ADC. The coalition people are coalitioning. What's happening? What's happening? By election, you have to show yourself. We didn't see anything. No.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
How about you?
Okay, many years ago, after the return to civilian democracy in 1999, we used to use such expressions as, oh, the Nigerian democracy is putative, the Nigerian democracy is inchoate, and the expectation then was that the democratic process will grow, lessons will be learned, and there will be better consolidation in terms of the democratic process in Nigeria. But unfortunately, years later, 1999 to 2025, what we are seeing is that the professional political class has refused to learn its lessons. What we are seeing, too, is that the institutions of state continue to fail the people and the country. Hence, the democratic process in Nigeria, you can still say, is still in a developmental state, because the right lessons have not been learned, the right improvements have not occurred, despite several revisions of the Electoral Act, the enabling Electoral Act. You can count up to about 10 revisions of the Electoral Act since 1999. Now, that said, the second thing is that the most recent election was the 2023 general election, at the end of which the conversation was again about electoral reform. And commentators on the subject have already identified areas of improvement, either in terms of performance of the electoral umpire, or in terms of the attitude of the political parties, or in terms of punishment for electoral offenders and reducing the degree of infractions. Now, after that 2023 election, we have now had by-elections in 16 constituencies in 12 states, by-elections conditioned, ordered, enabled by deaths, resignations, court-ordered reruns. And what have we seen?
Never put my leg down and say, we'll have it fairly. Because INEC themselves, in their thinking, brought about the alternative of IREV to be able to have a level of credibility. But we veered of it. You are hearing glitches happen again. We are just joking with ourselves. And people are being bought. And today, compared to 2023 election, money has more value than it used to have before. In the sense that people are poorer now, they are hungrier, so they will easily collect the money. If that is not done, let's forget about 2027 elections. And whoever emerges will just emerge. It will be on record. Right today's day, that it will be on record that I said it, and it will happen. Just like I predicted, leading up to 2023 elections, that hope will not hear about glitch, hope will not hear about shenanigans on election day, and everything I said happened. Sumner, like I said, let's talk about the role money played. But the point I also made was that if we don't make the use of IRF justiciable, put it in the law, let's forget 2027 election in terms of integrity. You might agree with me or disagree with me, but as far as I'm concerned, that's it. And I don't think it will happen. I do not think this National Assembly will pass laws around making IRF justiciable. That's my take. What do you think, sir?
Well, lawmakers are being pressured to actually do this because we have to return confidence to the electoral process so that if the winner emerges, we wouldn't have a situation whereby you do not have the winner having the confidence to be able to go about and say, look, I won this election like we had, during the outcome of the 2023 general election, where the president could not really feel super confident of this winning because of the gaps that were noticeable. So INEC should make the victory victorious, in quote, for whoever wins the election, so that the person can go about with some air of confidence that, yes, he or she won these elections outright. And we should take note that, yes, government parties would always have advantage over opposition. And the opposition should know that this electoral outcome, for example, in these elections, this by-election, is one that tells them what? That they have to sit up. You can't just go about saying the APC is rigging, APC is doing this, and APC is doing that without really voting. Without really canvassing for people to come out and vote. When did you see the party leaders going out to go and canvass for their candidates? It was just like 2 days before the election. Peter Obi, Nasir El-Rufai, and all of that. We didn't even see Atiku Abubakar going out and all of that. So they should know that the elections are going to be very, very serious business. If they want to hit back at the governing APC, they have to do more. And moreover, some of these people are from PDP and they know the kind of election meetings that they used to have in those days when they are going into election. So it's not going to, the APC is not just going to sit down there and allow them to just have this ultimate prize. They would have to pay the price to plan seriously. And that's why we are saying that the APC too must create the environment that will make the election to be conducive in such a way that anyone who emerges winner will have that confidence, including President Bola Tinubu, so that this time around, if he does emerge winner in the second term, he will have the confidence that he actually won the election outright. But our lawmakers need to be pressured over and over to ensure that these provisions of IREV and all of that are put in the constitution, in the electoral act in such a way that it will boost voter confidence. Because the way things are going, honestly, I don't see us having the numbers that we got. Don't forget, in the last election, we registered over 90 million voters. But how many of them came out for the election? There's a tendency that we may even have an electoral turnout of 25% nationwide if care is not taken ahead of the next election. And I don't know if we want to talk about the Jonathan issue. That's another exciting question that I look forward to.
Well, unfortunately, we seem to have run out of this. Now, over the weekend, I think on Friday, the National Security Advisor had a press conference in Abuja where he drew attention to the success of the collaboration among the intelligence apparatchik of Nigeria, and how the intelligence apparatchik of Nigeria has been able to arrest some key kingpins responsible for terrorism and insurgency in Nigeria. And it was in that process that the DSS, the Department of State Services, was singled out. The Department of State Services was said to have helped to arrest Mahmouda, right? Is it the Mahmouda? The Mahmouda, as a result of investigation, the head of the Mahmouda terrorist group, terrorizing Niger State and parts of Kogi State. And so excited was the governor of Niger State, Farmer Bago, that he had to single out Mr. Oluwatosin Ajayi, the DSS Director General, for special praise, saying that, look, what DSS has been able to do, brings great relief to the people of Niger State in particular, who have been, terrorized by this Mahmouda group, and now one of their kingpins has been arrested. There was also reference to the Ansaru terrorist organization. If a certain fellow who calls himself Amir Ansaru, having been, also arrested, along with his chief of staff, a certain Mahmouda, and, this in itself is a major success for the intelligence agencies. And the role played by the DSS was acknowledged, not just by the governor of Niger State, but also by the Northern Ethnic Youth Assembly and also the Muslim Rights Concern. It's not always that you find civil society groups in Nigeria praising the government intelligence agency. And this is why this is remarkable, that you find almost 3 groups saying, oh, thank you, DSS, for arresting these people. And I think that, this is enhancing against the background of our persistent demand that, look, these agencies need to do more, that the government needs to do more. So this is a major achievement for the security structure in Nigeria. And we should commend both the NSA, Nuhu Ribadu, and also commend the DSS, that's Mr. Oluwatosin Ajayi, and his team. And then add this caveat. And the caveat is as follows. Now, in the past, in this same country, persons who have been arrested involved in insurgency and terrorism, they have escaped in the past. I don't want to single out any administration. These ones that have been arrested, who have been called kingpins, linked to Al-Qaeda, they must not escape from custody. President Tinubu must make sure that there is no escape, and that we should not hear anything about they have repented, there is a rehabilitation. No, there's no rehabilitation. They must be made to face the full wrath of the law, because when you take a full account of the damage that they have caused, these are saboteurs, these are enemies of the state, and they must be made to answer for their impunity. Finally, Minister Alausa, Tunji Alausa, the Minister of Education, having a media parley over the weekend, saying that, look, Nigeria is now going to focus on digital education, smart learning, innovation, in order to increase productivity and make the products of Nigerian schools competitive. I think this is a welcome development. It's not enough to just talk about it. He also talked about, synthesizing the curriculum of WAEC and also JAM. JAM has 76 subjects. WAEC has, I think, about 80 subjects. Well, as for WAEC, I hope he realizes that WAEC, West African Examinations Council, from the very title, is a regional organization. Yeah. There are other countries involved: Gambia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. So there must be collaboration at that level. As for technology and innovation, this becomes very instructive. Against the background of the decision by the federal government of Nigeria to ban the establishment of additional federal universities, polytechnics, and monotechnics for a period of 7 years. In other words, they've placed a moratorium of 7 years. And the argument in discussing that has been, okay, if you place this moratorium, what then do you do? One of the options that has been identified is that we can make our education system more competitive. We can make it more modern in the age of artificial intelligence. Many of our university professors are still using notes that they used in 1970. Learning must be upgraded. Learning must be at the competitive level and follow the global trend. And we hope that this will include a conscientious effort to develop capacity. Capacity not just in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of manpower.
Absolutely. Let me start from there, actually, because I'm quite excited. We talked about one of the biggest news over the weekend, if not the biggest news, which is with regards to the by-elections that happened over the weekend and the performance of INEC. Also touched on the security successes recorded by the National Security Advisor, the Office of the National Security Advisor, including the DSS. But very critical, even though it's almost like a silent story, but very important because it underlines or underpins a lot of the things that we talk about today, which is education. We almost would suggest a state of emergency in education in Nigeria. And to hear some of the reforms that the minister is introducing, it's important, as he himself said during the media parley, to hold government to account when it comes to some of these reforms and policies to ensure that they are followed through and that the amount of money that is allocated to that sector is spent judiciously. First of all, he talks about AI, modernizing education. No-brainer there that it is quite important. In fact, a number of students in Nigeria and the education system in Nigeria cannot compete favorably with their counterparts in other parts of the world. He talked about the importance of ensuring that the teachers, when we talk about human capacity, have the equipment in the area of tablets to be able to meet this new reform, and also in the area of training, learning and development. The truth is that there are not many teachers in our institutions, in our primary institutions, who are able to interact with properly with technology. And so if we're talking about our students learning or modernizing the way education is taught in Nigeria, then we must also look at the people who are responsible for passing on the education. If not, we would have a big gap in education space in Nigeria. At the moment, what we should be looking at when we talk about the human resources, number of population, our young population being one of the greatest assets we have as a nation, we should be looking at things around how can we optimize this asset. And one of the ways to do that is to catch them young. If we're not able to speak for our educational system in the nation, then we will continue to have the issues that we have around INEC, when the list or people who are not fully able to interact with technology would keep on giving us excuses as to why BVAS in 2025 is not working, why we cannot apply or be able to implement simple technology in discharging elections in Nigeria. And so a lot of the challenges that we face would be, whether tackled if only we can get our education system right in Nigeria, and we should begin to pay close attention to that. And so, congrats to the minister, but more importantly is how this will work. If the teachers themselves are able to have a mindset shift to embrace technology, because if we speak to a number of them do not even have the mental, shall I say, awareness or exposure to embrace and to see the importance of this, to be able to transmit to the student themselves. And so we'll continue to watch and hold them to account. Now, with regards to the elections, it's interesting that Mr. Bayo Onanuga has released a statement saying that, praising the outcome of the elections, especially as we've seen reports, eyewitness reports, and people who've come out to talk about how in many areas INEC has failed again to discharge an election that's credible to a very large extent. And this doesn't all go well for what we look forward to in 2027. Of course, the race is towards 2027. We're now looking towards elections in 2027. Unfortunately, this last election in only 16 constituencies does not inspire confidence in a lot of Nigerians as to how well INEC has been able to learn lessons from its past mistakes. Number one, why are we still having issues with BVAS in 2025? What is the real issue? A lot of money has been expended on this project. Who is given an account for why it is not working, despite the amount of money and budget allocated to that particular area in terms of technology in our electoral processes? Why are people not coming in terms of consequences for actions? If we will continue to have these issues, if we continue to congratulate for an election well done because there was no violence, which is one of the lowest rungs in terms of how we are able to evaluate a successful election. Number two, it will not do well for voter apathy. If Nigerians see that elections are still conducted in the same way with a lot of incompetencies in the way it's being discharged, people will not come out to register or come out to vote for elections, vote during elections. And this is a fundamental issue we have when it comes to the selection or election of our leaders in different parts of the country. And so the big question for me this morning, and perhaps I'm posing to INEC, is what is the big deal? Why is it impossible or now impossible to get it right? Why must the INEC officials come or appear late to the polling stations? Why do we not have sanctions for these irregularities that are just, they're quick wins for INEC in terms of it being an institution? Why do we allocate huge budgets for election cycles and we are not able to get an excellent outcome, at least a near excellent outcome when it comes to elections? It's quite a shame. But congratulations to all the winners in the areas where it worked quite fine. Congratulations to them. But we must get to a point as a nation where we're able to have elections with little or no complaints when it comes to violence, vote buying, and of course, the employment of technology. With regards to the DSS, we often talk about when things go right or when things go wrong, we're able to hold them to account. I won't use the word criticize, but when it comes to wins, absolutely, they're able to show with examples and by naming names.
What did we see over the weekend?
Meanwhile, the Edo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party has rejected the results of the Senatorial and House of Representatives by-elections held on Saturday, August 16, 2025. PDP accused INEC of deliberate sabotage and described the election process as a severe blow to Nigeria's democratic integrity. Also, the Labour Party has expressed deep concern over the conduct of Saturday's by-elections held across 16 states, describing the exercise as a significant setback to Nigeria's democratic journey, while alleging irregularities including vote buying, electoral violence, and lack of transparency in the process. On their part, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, says Saturday's by-elections show that democracy has declined under President Bola Tinubu's administration. The ADC attributed its poor performance in Saturday's by-elections to widespread violence, vote buying, and irregularities allegedly perpetrated under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the All Progressives Congress. Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has extolled the virtues of former military President General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida IBB, describing him as one of Nigeria's finest and most committed leaders. Jonathan made the remarks on Sunday in Minna, Niger State, during a visit to Babangida's residence to celebrate his 84th birthday. Speaking with journalists after the visit, Jonathan said General Babangida's contributions to national unity and governance have left a lasting legacy. He praised IBB's leadership style, noting that his efforts during his time in office demonstrated a deep commitment to the unity and progress of Nigeria. Jonathan further described the elder statesman as a non-sectional leader who embraced all Nigerians regardless of region or background. Joining us on Political Brief to discuss these stories is Arise Director of News and Politics Editor, Tumna Sambo. Good morning and welcome to the show. It's good to see you this Monday morning.
I'm here. Good morning, Ayomiru Ese, and so good to have you back.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Rufai.
Well, Sumna, we've been discussing the by-elections over the weekend. What's your take? What are your own observations?
Well, I'll just say that it's not unusual for the government parties, as I like to call them, to emerge winners. You would have seen that it's a distribution, actually, of winning strategies by the government parties that are in power at different parts of the country. So you'll see that except maybe for Adamawa State, where there was an upset where the APC actually defeated the PDP in that Ganye State constituency election, with Amadou Fintiri being defeated alongside Atiku Abubakar's ADC in quotes, because he hasn't picked a membership card yet in the party, also being defeated. I think generally it's just a distribution of, political patronage by these people who are in power. You go to Anambra State, for example, you discover that ABGA swept the polls there. Go to Kanu. Yes, you'll see that there was that share. APC and NNPP sharing seats there. And then, of course, the bigger ones go to Edo State, the APC won there. And you go to Oyo State, Ibadan North Federal Constituency, for example, you will see that the PDP actually won the election, despite the projections that the APC was going to use its federal power to actually win the election. And there have been lots of calls on the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, to actually step aside, because this looks like what will happen in 2027 if the imposition of candidates continue and all of that. So it's just a matter of losers for me. Who are those who lost out in these elections? Well, the major losers are people like Peter Obi, because, you had in his own state constituency election losing to the governing All Progressives Grand Alliance in that state, and you could see Governor Soludo making mockery of him, that it was like a sort of an alliance that had been a gang up against the ABGA, and despite that Peter Obi came and it was unclear whether it's Labour Party or ADC, ABGA defeated them by about 75% of the votes. And then you go to other areas like Edo State. Governor Monday Okpebolo seems to have, maintained his lead, trying to stamp his feet on the ground to ensure that it tallies with what happened during the last election, despite that PDP is saying that there have been lots of rigging and all of that. But the biggest losers, actually, in terms of political parties, are the ADC. Look at what happened in Nasir El-Rufai's own state, Kaduna State. They were whipped seriously, both in Kajuru, in Sabongari, Zaria, and other places. So it's time for Nigerians to actually brace up to the reality. But what usually happens is that during this period of either rerun or off-cycle elections, the political parties actually bring all their strength together. It's just like what happens during off-season governorship election. All the governors will team together and bring resources, and of course they will marshal out their plan and hit whoever is coming. But when it gets to general elections, it's a different ball game. APC must actually be given its flowers, despite the fact that the opposition is kicking in some areas. Nonetheless, it still showed its strength in different places.
All right, I'm glad you talk about the APC and how this demonstrates their strengths in different places. I talked about earlier what the opposition party said, that if it was a fair playing ground, maybe it might not be so. And so I'd like you to evaluate perhaps the performance of INEC, looking ahead, in terms of 2027 and future elections, whether or not the electoral reform of 2022 has had any major impact in our conduct of elections, whether or not INEC is ready to be an impartial, player in adjudicating elections in Nigeria. And then further that, I'd also like to talk about the second story with regards to former President Goodluck Jonathan's visit to IBB.
Well, what we've seen in these rerun elections and off-cycle elections is that, first of all, it's like a midterm assessment. It's a midterm election, if you're to call it that way in Nigeria. And it just gives us an insight into how 2027 is going to be like. We are not seeing innovations from INEC. INEC needs to bring up more innovations that will bring a lot of confidence to Nigerians. For example, take a look at what happened in that election in Kanu, where you could see policemen with INEC officials. People, from the governing party in that state, doling out 5,000 naira to people. And both the electoral officials, the policemen and all of that, people were just there standing. In fact, some of them were being encouraged and all of that. And we wonder what exactly is happening. Where are the innovations we're supposed to see? And the National Assembly needs to be called to question here too. Where are those innovations that we need to bring in place to protect the elections, the integrity of the elections? If people can be given monies directly within polling units, vote buying, outright vote buying without fear of security services or electoral officials, and people turning the other way around. And then, for example, you go to Kaduna, where 25 million naira or so was being caught up with a PDP official, and the APC too, being accused of using state power. But you having policemen or others and all of that. So what does this say ahead of 2027 election? Well, it actually says a lot about what people have been saying, that the APC wants to go into 2027 election without any major opposition, and it is ready to crush any opposition that comes in place. But there are some signals that the APC should actually see coming. Look at what happened, for example, in that Ibadan North Federal Constituency election. You will see that despite all that was pushed into that place by the federal might, people still stood. The state government there stood, and they actually ensured that that was delivered. Generally, the APC, the INEC, the police, and other institutions of state must ensure that the electoral integrity of this country is not called to further question if we go this way into the 2027 general election. For example, in Edo State, we saw the issues of beavers being affected and people losing confidence, because if you come out to vote and the machines are packing up, then it's a problem. Then, of course, what of IREV? We thought that by now the issues of IREV, posting of results and all of that would have been so done easily that ahead of 2027 there will be some sort of vote of confidence. But I can tell you that there may be a huge voter apathy in 2027 if we continue, especially with an incumbent, because people may feel powerless that the incumbent will use all the resources and state powers to actually crush both the opposition and voters, and so people won't come out.
What you've said is very apt, Sumner. In fact, if no electoral reforms are made to make the use of IRES justiciable, let's forget about 2027 election when it comes to integrity. Because a lot of people campaign for that. In 2023 elections, a lot of people have constantly spoken about that. But nothing, as we speak today, has been done. And I don't think this National Assembly will do anything about it. I want us to talk about money, the role money played in these by-elections, not by-elections, across board and across every political party. Should we go and be keeping money down for 2027 elections? Is that the case now? Sumner? Oh. Okay. So, I was just talking about the role money played in this. And maybe next week we'll get a chance to interact with Sumner even further about this. And this is not only any political party's thing. It's across all political parties. And like I was saying before, if we do not push laws forward to the National Assembly, I need to be passed and the President assented that the results uploaded on the IRF, that's from the polling station, polling unit to the IRF, can be justiciable if we wait for results to go to coalition center. Take whatever you get in the next elections. I would never put my leg down and say we'll have it fairly.
Permit me to move away from the context of this video. Now, there's this post on the Twitter space where somebody asked, why is Soludo so bitter towards Peter Obi? Why is Soludo so bitter towards Peter Gregory Obi? That is the question Nigerians are asking, you know? I'm just going to take you through some of the reactions, because people have always said that the Igbos, they don't love themselves, they are jealous of themselves and all that. But when you see things like this, the way Soludo has been going after Peter Obi, you get to know that that justifies what people say, you know. Anyway, let me take you through some of the reactions. This person said he craves the love and attention Peter Obi has and would like to be like that man. He craves he craves the love and attention Peter Obi has. He wants to be like Peter Obi. And this other person say he cannot be bitter overnight. It's what he had that he is giving. Check out what Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala said about him. Then you will know man is just who he is. That it didn't just start now. This person say he can't see him achieve. Okay, he can't see him achieve what he will not achieve in his entire lifetime. That's Soludo can't achieve what Peter Obi has achieved. He can't see him achieve what he will never achieve all his end. Okay, that's presidency. This other person say exactly. Another person say they all believe they should retire at Aso Rock and Peter Obi is a stumbling block. Can you imagine? This person say no be lie. Bitter leave Cynthia. This because Obi is million miles ahead of him. I think I agree with this one. And this one say no be lie. Okay. Another person say PO is outshining him, and this could be detrimental to his political ambition at the center. He wish he was him. And this one say jealousy. And this one say because he knows Peter Obi is better accepted than him anywhere, everywhere he goes, in his state and country. If everybody is bitter towards Peter Obi, then he needs to check himself, because he cannot beat Obi's record in Anambra State, honestly. At such a time when the Tinubu's government has come out to boast that they are channeling all the money they are saving from subsidy to the governors, one may just be wondering, why has Soludo not achieved anything? Soludo, some of the roads he built, there was one that, you know, rain fell and the whole, is it concrete or whatever they used to, were being swept off, and people were, there was a video trending to that. Why are you jealous of your own brother? You can't even, you are going to second term, you can't even achieve close to what Peter Obi achieved, despite all the money Tinubu said he's giving to you guys. Peter Obi met debt in Anambra State, and he met debt on ground. He worked with the little resources he now saved. You can't achieve it even though you're a professor. People are asking Soludo, Igbo governor, why are you so bitter towards your own brother? Ndi Igbo, can someone answer? This person says, it seems more like his own struggle for political survival is just jungle of power, but beyond politics. May the Spirit of the Lord steer a righteous revival in our land and nation in Jesus' name. This person, Professor Soludo is not bitter. He won the by-election in Anambra for the Abga party. Why should he be bitter? He will know. Who no go no. He's not bitter. Now witchcraft they worry him. This person said because he knows he doesn't have what it takes to be Peter Obi. He's always bitter, and he is always bitter and envy people that he thinks doing better than him. Jealousy and envy. It's just envy. This other person, Soludo, is an embittered loser in the Nigerian political space who is so derailed to commit intellectual harakiri by deliberately misquoting. This person used slangs to finish Soludo. So, guys, the question remains, why is Soludo so bitter towards Peter Obi because he is a bitter person naturally. Western education doesn't change people who are traditionally wicked and envy. Instead, it gives them validation to justify why they are evil. Because Peter Obi could could be the first democratically elected president from the Southeast. That's a record. That is a record Soludo would never achieve in his lifetime. So guys, a whole lot of reactions here, and people are asking, why is Soludo always angry with Peter Obi? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Thank you.